Keeper Nereus led the human crew deeper into the first beacon, past displays that showed the history of navigation across thousands of worlds. The chamber seemed to expand as they walked, its walls revealing new sections that had been hidden moments before. "You must understand," the being explained as they moved through corridors lined with crystalline formations. "The art of true navigation is not about conquering space. It is about understanding the natural flows that connect all things. Your ancestors learned this when they first took to the seas of Earth." Lisa studied the displays as they passed. "But if you taught our ancestors, why did humanity forget? Why did we have to rediscover these principles?" "Because forgetting is sometimes necessary for growth," Nereus replied. "Your species needed to develop its own technology, its own understanding of the universe, before you could truly appreciate the gifts that were given to you. A student who is simply told the answers never learns as deeply as one who discovers them through struggle." Danny Kim was taking detailed notes, though he wasn't sure how much of what he was seeing could ever be explained to others. "These displays show journeys between galaxies, actual intergalactic travel, but the Galactic Council says that's impossible. Impossible for those who approach space as a barrier to be overcome," Nereus agreed, "but natural for those who learn to read its currents like a master sailor reads the ocean. The Veil Nebula is not a prison, it is a nursery, designed to test which species are ready for the greater journey." They entered a new chamber, where the walls were covered with three-dimensional star maps that showed not just their galaxy, but dozens of others connected by shimmering pathways. Jake stared in amazement at the scope of what he was seeing. All these connections, their real routes between galaxies. Real for those who understand how to follow them. Each pathway requires a different form of navigation, a different harmony between technology and intuition. The hybrid system your species developed is the first step toward mastering what we call the universal currents. Lisa felt overwhelmed by the implications. But why keep this secret? Why not just teach everyone how to navigate these pathways? "Knowledge without wisdom is dangerous," Nereus explained. The Galactic Council was not wrong to restrict access to the nebula. They simply misunderstood the nature of the test. They thought it was about proving technological superiority, when it was actually about proving species maturity. Sarah Brooks, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke up. "Species maturity. What does that mean exactly?" "It means understanding. That exploration is not about conquest, that knowledge is not about power, and that the greatest discoveries come from cooperation rather than competition." Nereus gestured to the star maps. Each beacon in the network was placed by a different species, each contributing their unique understanding to the greater whole. As if responding to the Keeper's words, new displays activated, showing the other 6 beacons. Each was built in a different style, reflecting the aesthetic and technological preferences of its creators. But all shared the same fundamental purpose, teaching navigation that transcended simple space travel. The second beacon was built by the crystalline beings of Zephyria, Nereus continued. Though they have forgotten its true purpose, they still guard it faithfully. The third beacon was crafted by the avian navigators of Kepler's Rest. The fourth, ... Wait, Jake interrupted. "You're saying the Zephyrians built one of these beacons?" "But they're the ones who declared the nebula impassable, because they have forgotten what their ancestors knew. Over time, species sometimes lose the wisdom that brought them to the beacons in the first place." The Council's prohibition was not a conspiracy, it was a symptom of their own lost understanding. Lisa was beginning to see the larger pattern. So when we rediscovered the old navigation methods, we weren't just solving a technical problem. We were proving that humanity could remember what others had forgotten. Precisely. And now you face the true test. Will you use this knowledge for the benefit of all species, or will you seek to control it for your own advancement? Before anyone could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the Wayfinder. Sarah rushed to the communication panel. We're receiving an urgent message from Starfleet Command. They're ordering us to leave the nebula immediately and return to base. Jake looked troubled. What's the emergency? Apparently, the Galactic Council has detected our presence in the restricted zone and is demanding our immediate return. They're threatening to send a patrol fleet if we don't comply. Nereus's expression became serious. The Council moves faster than we anticipated. They must have been monitoring your activities more closely than we expected. Danny checked his instruments. We're getting energy readings from outside, multiple ships approaching at high speed. Lisa made a quick decision. We can't leave now. Not when we're so close to understanding the truth. The question is not whether you can leave, Nereus said calmly. The question is whether you should. The Council's ships are no threat to this beacon, but they may attempt to prevent you from sharing what you have learned. Jake looked at his crew, seeing the same determination in their faces that he felt in his own heart. What do you recommend? Complete your education here, then return to your people with the full truth. The Council's fear is based on ignorance. Remove that ignorance, and their opposition will crumble. As if to emphasize the Keeper's words, the chamber's displays suddenly showed the approaching Zephyrian ships. But overlaying this information was something that made everyone gasp. The patrol vessels were following what appeared to be ancient navigation routes, paths that had been hidden in plain sight, but invisible to those who had forgotten how to see them. They're using the universal currents without knowing it, Lisa realized. The Council has been navigating safely through the nebula all along. They just don't understand how they're doing it. Which means, Jake added, that the prohibition was never about safety. It was about control. Nereus nodded approvingly. You begin to understand. Now comes the question of what you will do with that understanding. The Wayfinder drifted gently toward the massive structure, its hull surrounded by streams of soft blue energy. Inside the ship, every system continued to function normally, despite their close proximity to what should have been one of the most dangerous regions in the galaxy. This is impossible, muttered Lieutenant Sarah Brooks, checking her instruments for the 5th time. All readings show normal space conditions, but we're surrounded by a nebula that should be tearing our ship apart. Lisa Martinez studied the hybrid navigation system, which was now displaying information that made no sense according to conventional science. The energy fields aren't just calm, they're actually being redirected around us, like water flowing around a rock in a stream. Danny Kim was frantically working at his station, trying to understand what was happening. Whatever that structure is, it's not just ancient, it's actively managing the entire nebula's energy patterns. The electromagnetic disturbances aren't natural at all. Jake Morrison kept one eye on the view screen and one on his communication panel, waiting for either Starfleet Command or the mysterious voice to speak again. Any response to our hails? Nothing from Starfleet, but that other signal is still active, Sarah reported. Though it's not transmitting anymore, it's like they're waiting for us to get closer. As the ship moved within a few hundred meters of the structure's surface, details began to emerge that took everyone's breath away. The building was covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched, like living art. Symbols that matched those in Lisa's grandfather's charts appeared and disappeared across the metallic surface. Those markings, Lisa breathed, they're not just decorative. They're instructions, navigation instructions written in a language that predates human civilization by thousands of years. Danny zoomed in on one section of the structure. And look at this. The patterns aren't random. They're showing star maps, nebula formations, and what looks like flight paths through space. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Flight paths that lead to other galaxies. Before anyone could respond to that realization, the structure's surface began to shimmer. A section of the wall became transparent, revealing an interior space that was clearly designed for visitors. Soft light spilled out from within, and the energy streams that had been guiding their ship shifted to point toward the opening. I think we're being invited inside, Lisa said quietly. Are you crazy? Sarah looked shocked. We have no idea what that thing is or who built it. Going inside would be insane. Sarah's right, Danny added. We should call for help, get a proper exploration team out here before we do anything rash. But Jake was looking at the hybrid navigation system, which was now showing something that made his heart race. Lisa, look at this. The system isn't just reading the structure's energy patterns, it's translating them. It's like the building is communicating with our computer. Lisa rushed over to Danny's station and studied the data streaming across the screen. It's true. The energy fluctuations are following mathematical sequences that match the navigation algorithms we programmed. Whatever built this place, they used the same principles we rediscovered. And they're welcoming us, Jake added, pointing to a new display that showed a clear pathway leading into the structure's interior. The system is showing us exactly how to enter safely, as if responding to his words. The transparent section of wall grew larger, and a gentle voice filled the ship's communication system once again. Welcome, children of the seafaring worlds. You have proven yourselves worthy of the next stage of understanding. Will you accept our invitation to learn? Lisa looked around at her companions, seeing the same mixture of fear and excitement in their eyes that she felt in her own chest. They know about Earth's maritime traditions. They're calling us children of the seafaring worlds. The question is, do we trust them? Sarah asked. Jake made the decision that would change everything. We came out here to prove that humanity could solve problems in new ways. This is definitely a new way. Let's see where it leads. He nodded to the pilot. Take us in, but stay ready to abort if anything goes wrong. The Wayfinder moved slowly through the energy streams toward the opening in the structure's wall. As they crossed the threshold, the ship's lights dimmed briefly, then returned to normal. But everything felt different now. The air seemed cleaner. The instruments ran more smoothly, and there was a subtle vibration that reminded Lisa of standing on a dock while waves lapped against the pilings. They emerged into a vast chamber that defied description. The walls curved upward in impossible geometries, creating a space that seemed larger on the inside than the structure's exterior had suggested. Crystalline formations grew from the floor and ceiling, pulsing with gentle light that provided illumination without heat. Gravity readings are normal, Danny reported. Atmospheric composition is breathable. This place is designed for visitors from multiple worlds. As they moved deeper into the chamber, figures began to emerge from the shadows. They were tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to shimmer like the surface of calm water. Their features were androgynous, with large, expressive eyes that held depths of ancient wisdom. Greetings, travelers from the third planet, one of the beings said, its voice harmonizing with the chamber's natural acoustics. I am Keeper Nereus, guardian of the first beacon. You have done well to reach us. Lisa found her voice first. First beacon, is that what this structure is called? Among many names, yes. This is one of 7 beacons placed throughout your galaxy by those who came before, those who taught your ancestors the arts of navigation and exploration. Jake stepped forward. Our ancestors? You mean humans? We mean all the sea peoples who learned to read the currents of space as your forebears learned to read the currents of ocean. The knowledge you rediscovered was never lost. It was simply waiting for the right species to remember it. The being gestured toward a series of displays that activated as they approached. Images appeared showing ancient Earth, with sailing, ships moving across vast oceans. But overlaying these were star charts and cosmic maps that showed journeys between worlds. Your species was among the first to receive the gift of true navigation, Keeper Nereus explained. The charts you found in your grandfather's belongings were copies of the original teachings, preserved by those who understood their value. Lisa touched the display showing her grandfather's maps. Captain Vasquez wasn't just a sailor, he was a guardian of ancient knowledge. Precisely. And now you have proven that the gift can be reclaimed. The Galactic Council's prohibition was not a test of technology, It was a test of wisdom. Would humanity remember the old ways, or would you rely solely on new methods? Jake looked around the magnificent chamber. The council knew about this place all along, didn't they? Some of them did. Others chose to forget, preferring the comfort of established rules to the challenge of rediscovery. But the beacons have been waiting, watching, hoping that one species would prove worthy of the greater journey. As the implications sank in, Lisa realized that their test run had just become the first step in humanity's greatest adventure yet. 2 weeks later, the small survey ship Wayfinder drifted at the edge of the restricted zone. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge with Lisa Martinez and Danny Kim, watching as the hybrid navigation system came online. The test run had been approved at the last minute, though the Galactic Council had made it clear that this was not to be considered a serious attempt at nebula navigation. "System check complete," reported Lieutenant Sarah Brooks from the sensor station. "All quantum arrays functioning normally. Hybrid algorithms are running." Lisa studied the main display, where green pathways overlaid the swirling red and orange energy fields of the nebula's outer regions. "According to our calculations, there should be a calm zone directly ahead, about 2,000 kilometers," and Jake nodded to the pilot. "Take us in, but stay ready to abort at the first sign of trouble." The Wayfinder moved slowly toward the designated coordinates. Standard sensors showed the area as highly dangerous, with electromagnetic disturbances that should have been impossible to navigate. But the hybrid system painted a different picture entirely. "Entering the predicted comm zone now," the pilot announced. "Sensors are showing. Wait, this can't be right. What is it?" Jake moved closer to the display. "All disturbance readings are dropping to normal levels. We're in perfectly stable space, just like the system predicted. But that's impossible according to Zephyrian data." Lisa felt a surge of excitement. "Keep going. The system shows a clear pathway extending another 5,000 kilometers inward." As they ventured deeper than any human ship had gone before, the readings remained consistent. The hybrid system was not only accurate, it was revealing safe passages that conventional navigation would have deemed impassable. "This is incredible," Danny whispered, studying the data streams. "Every prediction has been correct so far. The system isn't just guessing, it's actually reading the nebula's natural flow patterns." Jake contacted Starfleet Command. "This is Commander Morrison on the Wayfinder. We're currently navigating through what should be a highly dangerous region, and our instruments show normal conditions throughout." There was a long pause before the response came. "Commander, you are in violation of Galactic Council regulations. Return to base immediately. With all due respect, we've discovered something important here. Request permission to continue the test for another hour." Another pause. "Negative, Commander. Return to base at once." Jake looked at Lisa and Danny, who were both watching him, with hopeful expressions. "Understood, Command. Returning now." But as they began to turn back, Lisa's voice stopped him. "Wait, look at this." She pointed to the main display, where the hybrid system was showing an even clearer pathway extending deeper into the nebula. "The system is detecting a massive energy signature about 10,000 kilometers further in. It's not dangerous. It's actually stabilizing the local space-time field." Danny checked his instruments. "She's right. There's something big down there, and it's creating a protective bubble around itself." Jake made a quick decision. "We're not done here yet. Continue on that heading, but stay alert." "Jake, you're disobeying a direct order," Lisa warned. "I'm following my instincts. And right now, my instincts are telling me that we're on the verge of something huge." The Wayfinder moved deeper into the nebula, following the green pathway that the hybrid system had calculated. As they approached the energy signature, the view screen showed something that made everyone on the bridge gasp. A massive structure hung in the cosmic mist, its surface gleaming with an otherworldly light. It was clearly artificial, with geometric patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. But what was most remarkable was its size, easily 3 times larger than any human space station. "It's beautiful," Sarah whispered. "And ancient," Danny added, studying his scanner readings. "This thing has been here for thousands of years, maybe longer." Lisa was frantically checking her grandfather's charts. The symbols on that structure, they matched the markings in Captain Vasquez's logs. "Look at this entry from 1789. He described seeing shining cities in the sky during a voyage to the Pacific." Jake opened a communication channel to Starfleet. "Command, you need to see this. We've found something that changes everything about the Veil Nebula." But instead of Starfleet responding, a new voice came through the comm system, one that was clearly not human. "Human vessel, you have entered restricted space. Identify yourselves immediately." The voice was musical and strange, with harmonics that seemed to resonate through the ship's hull. Jake looked at his crew, who were all staring at the communication panel in shock. "This is Commander Jake Morrison, of the human exploration vessel Wayfinder. We come in peace." There was a brief pause. "Humans, how interesting. We have been waiting a very long time for your species to reach this point." Lisa leaned forward. "Waiting for us? What do you mean?" "The navigation test, of course. You have passed the first stage. Now we will see if you are truly ready for what lies beyond the veil." Before anyone could respond, the massive structure began to glow brighter. Energy streams extended from its surface, connecting with the Wayfinder in a gentle but unmistakable grip. "We're being pulled toward it," the pilot reported, his hands flying over the controls. "Don't fight it," Lisa said suddenly. "Look at the system readings. Whatever is happening, it's not dangerous. In fact, I think they're helping us." As the ship moved closer to the ancient structure, Jake realized that their test run had just become something much more significant. Whatever they had discovered about navigation was only the beginning of a much larger mystery, one that had been waiting for humanity to solve for thousands of years. 3 days later, Lisa and Jake stood in Danny Kim's engineering lab at the university. The young engineer had transformed Lisa's theoretical concepts into actual working hardware. Cables and monitors covered every available surface, and the soft hum of processors filled the air. "Okay, let me show you what we've built," Danny said, adjusting his glasses as he pointed to a large display screen. "Lisa gave me those old navigation charts, and I spent hours analyzing the pattern systems she identified. The key insight was that both ocean navigation and space navigation involve reading environmental flows and predicting safe pathways." He activated the main computer system. "This is our hybrid navigation matrix. On one side we have standard quantum sensors that read electromagnetic fields and gravitational distortions. On the other side we have algorithms based on historical, maritime navigation techniques." Jake watched as the screen displayed complex data streams. "How does that work exactly?" "Think of it this way," Lisa explained. "Ancient sailors didn't just rely on compasses and stars. They read wave patterns, understood wind behavior, and knew how currents interacted with underwater geography. They developed an intuitive sense for navigation that modern sailors sometimes forget." Danny nodded enthusiastically. "Right. So we programmed the computer to interpret space-time distortions the same way. Instead of reading ocean swells, it reads electromagnetic eddies. Instead of wind patterns, it analyzes cosmic energy flows." The screen showed a simulation of the Veil Nebula's outer regions. Red and orange swirls represented dangerous energy fields, while blue areas showed calmer space. But overlaying this was a network of green lines, potential pathways that the hybrid system had calculated. The Zephyrian scans showed this entire region as impassable, Jake said, studying the display. "But your system is showing multiple safe routes." "Safe-ish routes," Danny corrected. "We're still in the theoretical stage. But look at this. The system is predicting comm zones that align perfectly with the patterns Lisa identified in those old charts." Lisa pulled up another screen showing historical maritime data. Captain Vasquez's logs described something called following the whale roads. Specific pathways through dangerous waters that experienced sailors knew about, but couldn't always explain scientifically. What if these weren't just lucky guesses? What if they were based on real environmental patterns that we're only now beginning to understand? Jake leaned closer to the screens. You're talking about knowledge that's thousands of years old, being applicable to space travel. That's actually kind of amazing if it's true. It gets better, Danny said, activating another program. We've been running simulations using the hybrid system, comparing its predictions to actual historical data. When we apply the same algorithms to known safe passages through asteroid fields and radiation zones, the system successfully identifies the routes that real ships took. Lisa smiled. It's like the universe has consistent rules for navigation, whether you're sailing on water or flying through space. The principles remain the same, you just need to adjust for the medium. Jake was beginning to get excited despite his initial skepticism. How long until we can test this on an actual ship? Actually, we're ahead of schedule there. Danny said I've been working with Commander Torres from the research division. She's authorized us to install a prototype system on the Wayfinder for testing. The Wayfinder? That's just a survey ship. Exactly. Low risk, perfect for initial tests. We're planning a run to the outer edge of the restricted zone next week. Nothing dangerous, just to see if the system's predictions match real conditions. Lisa pulled out her grandfather's maps again. There's something else I discovered while studying these charts. Look at this symbol here. It appears in several different maritime cultures, from the Polynesians to the Vikings to ancient Chinese navigators. But there's no clear historical connection between these groups. Jake studied the symbol, a spiral with waves radiating outward. So what if this knowledge came from a common source? What if Earth's ancient sailors weren't just developing navigation techniques independently? What if they were preserving and passing down knowledge from somewhere else entirely? Danny looked skeptical. You're suggesting that Earth's maritime traditions came from alien influence? Why not? We know that human civilization developed rapidly around certain technological breakthroughs. What if navigation was one of those breakthroughs, passed down from visitors who understood both ocean and space travel? Jake was quiet for a moment, considering the implications. If that's true, then humanity might have an advantage that other species don't realize. We've been trying to solve space navigation problems using purely technological approaches, but what if the answer has been in our cultural memory all along? Exactly, Lisa said. The Zephyrians are incredibly advanced technologically, but they might be missing something fundamental. They're looking at the nebula as a barrier to overcome with better equipment. But what if the key is understanding the nebula's natural flow patterns? Just like sailors learned to work with ocean currents instead of fighting against them. Danny activated another simulation. Here's where it gets really interesting. The hybrid system isn't just identifying existing safe passages, it's predicting new ones. Routes that conventional scanning technology would never detect, because they don't show up as obvious anomalies. The screen displayed a three-dimensional model of the nebula's outer regions. Green lines snaked through the chaotic energy fields, showing pathways that seemed to flow with the natural movement of cosmic forces, rather than cutting straight through dangerous areas. If these predictions are accurate, Jake said slowly, we could be looking at the key to safe passage through the entire Veil Nebula cluster. But we need to prove it works in reality, not just simulations, Lisa reminded him. The test run next week will be crucial. If the system's predictions match actual conditions, we'll have the proof we need to convince the Council to let us attempt a full mission. Danny looked nervous. What happens if the Council still says no? What if they see this as a violation of their authority? Then we'll have to decide how important this discovery really is, Jake said grimly. Because if Lisa is right, we're not just talking about opening up a new trade route. We're talking about proving that humanity can solve problems in ways that other species haven't considered. As they continued working, none of them realized that their conversation was being monitored by sensors hidden throughout the facility. The Galactic Council's interest in human activities had been growing, and what they were hearing was about to change everything they thought they knew about navigation, exploration, and the true nature of the species they had been testing for decades. Dr. Lisa Martinez stood in her small apartment in San Diego, surrounded by boxers and old furniture. Her grandfather had passed away 3 weeks ago, and she was finally ready to sort through his belongings. At 62, Robert Martinez had been a sailor his entire life, spending decades on fishing boats in the Pacific before retiring to tell stories to anyone who would listen. Lisa had inherited her love of exploration from him, though she had taken it in a different direction. While he had mapped the oceans of Earth, she had mapped the worlds beyond. As a marine archaeologist turned xenogeographer, she studied how ancient Earth cultures related to alien civilizations. Her work was fascinating, but lately, she had been feeling stuck. She opened the first box and found old photographs of her grandfather on various boats, his weathered face smiling at the camera. There were logbooks filled with his careful handwriting, describing weather patterns, fish migrations, and navigation routes. Lisa smiled, remembering how he would spend hours teaching her to read the stars and understand the ocean's moods. Halfway through the third box, she found something unusual. Wrapped in old cloth were several rolled-up pieces of parchment that looked very old. Carefully, she unwrapped them and spread them on her kitchen table. The maps were hand-drawn, showing coastlines she didn't recognize, with strange symbols and detailed notes written in her grandfather's neat handwriting. These belonged to Captain Hernando Vasquez. Her grandfather had written in one corner, "Gift from 1789. Real treasure for any navigator." Lisa studied the maps more carefully. They showed dangerous waters around what looked like islands, with detailed notes about currents, winds, and safe passages. The symbols were familiar from her studies of maritime history, but something about them seemed different. The way the waves were drawn, the patterns of the stars, even the compass markings, they reminded her of something she had seen recently. She went to her computer and pulled up recent scans of the Veil Nebula. The Galactic Council had released detailed images of the electromagnetic disturbances, showing how the energy swirled and moved like cosmic storms. As she compared the nebula patterns to her grandfather's maps, something incredible became clear. The turbulence patterns were almost identical. Lisa's heart began to race. She opened several more files, comparing the ancient sea charts to modern space phenomena, the way sailors had read wave patterns and predicted safe routes through dangerous waters. It was exactly how one might navigate through cosmic energy storms. The principles were the same, just operating on a different scale. She grabbed her phone and called Jake Morrison immediately. "Lisa, it's late. Is everything okay?" Jake's voice sounded tired, but concerned. "Jake, I think I've found something important. Something that could change everything about the Council's decision." She explained quickly about the maps and her discovery. There was a long pause. "Lisa, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but comparing old sea charts to nebula patterns, that's quite a stretch." "Maybe, but hear me out. I've been studying these for 3 hours, and the correlations are too strong to ignore. What if ancient Earth sailors weren't just navigating oceans? What if they were applying knowledge from somewhere else entirely?" Jake was quiet for a moment. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting that the same principles that helped sailors survive Earth's most dangerous waters might help us navigate the Veil Nebula. Think about it. Your grandfather was a sailor, right? Did he ever mention anything unusual about navigation techniques?" "My grandfather was a merchant captain. He always said that the best navigators weren't just good with instruments. They could read the sea like it was talking to them. He used to tell stories about old-timers who could predict storms just by the way waves moved. Exactly. And what if those skills translate to space? What if the electromagnetic disturbances in the nebula create patterns similar to ocean currents? We've been trying to solve this problem with pure technology, but maybe we need to combine that with intuitive navigation methods. Jake sighed. Lisa, I want to believe you, but this sounds pretty far-fetched. The Zephyrians have the most advanced scanning equipment in the galaxy. If there was a way through, don't you think they would have found it? Maybe they're looking in the wrong way. Maybe you need to understand the nebula, not just scan it. Look, I'll send you the comparisons I've made. Spend some time with them. If you're still interested tomorrow, come to my lab. I want to show you something else. The next morning, Jake arrived at the marine archaeology facility where Lisa worked. She had spent the night preparing a detailed presentation, showing how specific navigation techniques from historical maritime records could theoretically apply to space travel. Look at this, Lisa said, pointing to a chart showing wave patterns from the North Atlantic in 1750. Sailors used to navigate through the Grand Banks by reading these current interactions. Now look at this scan from the Veil Nebula's outer regions. The patterns were remarkably similar, but that's just visual similarity, Jake protested. You can make anything look like anything else if you squint hard enough. Lisa smiled. Fair point. But what if I could prove it works? What if we could build a navigation system that combines quantum scanning with these ancient principles? She led him to a workbench where she had been building a prototype computer system. I've been working with Danny Kim from the engineering department. He's helping me develop algorithms based on historical navigation methods, but using modern sensors to read space-time distortions instead of wave patterns. Jake studied the equipment. This is actually pretty sophisticated. But Lisa, even if it works in theory, we're still talking about defying a direct order from the Galactic Council. Maybe not defying it. Maybe we're finding the solution they couldn't see. Lisa's eyes were bright with excitement. Jake, what if this isn't about breaking rules? What if it's about proving that humanity can solve problems in ways that other species haven't considered? Jake looked at the maps again, then at the computer readouts, then back at Lisa. Slowly, a smile began to form on his face. Okay, let's say you're right. How do we test this without getting thrown out of the Space Exploration Corps? That's the easy part. We start small, with simulations and theoretical models. But Jake, if this works, she paused, letting the possibility hang in the air. If this works, Jake finished, we might just open up the entire galaxy to humanity. As they worked together that day, neither of them realized that they were about to challenge everything the Galactic Council believed about navigation, exploration, and what it truly meant to be worthy of interstellar travel. Commander Jake Morrison sat in his office aboard the space station, staring at the official transmission from the Galactic Navigation Council. The message had arrived an hour ago, but he still couldn't believe what it said. The crystalline beings from Zephyria had declared that no species in the galaxy could safely navigate the Veil Nebula cluster. Jake had spent 15 years exploring the Outer Rim territories, always hoping to be the first human to map the mysterious nebula region. The Delta system lay beyond those swirling clouds of cosmic dust and energy storms, a place rich with rare minerals and advanced technology that every spacefaring civilization wanted to reach. But now, thanks to this decree, that dream seemed impossible. The transmission played again on his screen. The Zephyrian ambassador, a tall being made of living crystal, spoke in their musical language, translated by the universal computer. All member species are hereby warned to avoid the Veil Nebula cluster. Our most advanced scanning technology shows that the electromagnetic disturbances make navigation extremely dangerous. No ship that enters will return. Jake's fist hit the desk in frustration. He thought about his crew, his ship, and all the years of training that had led to this moment. The Galactic Council's word was law in space. No captain could ignore a direct order from the Zephyrians, especially when they had the most advanced technology in the known galaxy. His communicator buzzed. It was Captain Williams from the neighboring station. "Did you see the Council's message?" Williams asked, his face looking worried on the screen. "I saw it," Jake replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "They're saying we can't go to Delta System anymore." "That's right. The Council says it's too dangerous. They don't want any more ships lost in those nebula clouds." Williams paused. "I'm sorry, Jake. I know how much this meant to you." After ending the call, Jake looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere beyond the station, the Veil Nebula swirled like a cosmic storm, hiding secrets and treasures that humanity might never reach. The Zephyrians had spoken, and their word was final. But as Jake sat there, feeling defeated for the first time in his career, he couldn't shake the feeling that there might be another way. The universe was full of surprises, and sometimes the most impossible challenges had unexpected solutions. He just didn't know yet what form that solution would take. For now, he would have to accept the Council's ruling and find a new mission. But somewhere deep down, Jake Morrison still believed that humans could achieve what others thought impossible.